Excellent. Thanks, John. And thanks to all of you that are here. I know there's a few more coming, and it's good to see some familiar faces, and actually even better to see some faces I don't know, which is a nice addition to our work as we tried to build the co-op community. I thought we'd make today actually quite casual, kind of a fireside chat with two colleagues slash co-leaders slash friends, Ben and Vicki as the chairs of BCCA and ACCA respectively. We do meet quite frequently and often together, and those who were here a bit earlier, there's a fair bit of humor to that, given the natures of these two people. Hopefully there's a bit of that here. So it'll be kind of a question and answer format, as John has said, as we go through and ask the questions to each of our chairs. If there's pass them to, and we'll pause for questions that do come through that might be relevant to what was asked previously, but try to keep it casual. If you have a drink or a fire to cozy up to, pretend we're back in the Depression era with the fireside chats from Roosevelt, and we'll just get that co-op perspective from leadership here going forth. So I'll start off with some of you know these folks. I'm glad to have got to know them quite well. And one question I have for you first, Ben, is you've been at the helm of the ACCA as chair for quite some time and been on the board longer than that. And I'm wondering what was the crazy idea that you thought you should actually take on that leadership role at a co-op association? Why are you leading this organization?
Thanks, Paul. That's a great question. And I've had no time to think about it. So let's see how this goes. First, I'll just back up and say I'm privileged and grateful to be joining today from ancestral Snuneymuxw territory here on beautiful Vancouver Island. So an hour behind you folks in Alberta. Happy to be here. I think I started with BCCA in 2014, but I don't actually know that that's correct. And so I was executive director of the BC Libraries Co-op at the time and was looking to understand the power of the co-op model and get to know folks outside of the library sector and see what was possible. So that's how I started serving on the board, and great conversations. And in that time, Patrice Pratt, the amazing Patrice Pratt, was executive director, semi-retired, one-woman band, really doing all the things. And it was time for her to pass the reins. And I think I literally got stuck with bonbons in my mouth or something. I'm not sure how it got to me, but a number of other folks were maybe hiding under the table. But I saw an opportunity to give back a little bit, which I'd received. And I found the co-op sector to be incredibly present and helpful and supportive in those early years of starting up, at the time, a very small and underfunded co-op and helping scale it. So that's how I got involved. And then since then, it just keeps getting better and better. And I know you've been trying to get rid of me. You're not successful yet. So my time is coming, but it's not yet. I'm just happy to be here, and especially now, and being able to collaborate with Vicki and all you crazy Albertans from the place that I am born. And it's just been very powerful to see what we can do together.
Excellent, thanks, Ben. And we do share, come from the very same roots in our kind of Alberta area. We share the same taste in music, which we won't bring on to you folks right now. Ben does a great version of some Black Sabbath songs, but not appropriate at this point. Over to you, Vicki. Same question. Known you for quite some time. It's a pleasure working with you. You joined recently on the board of ACCA, now chair. So why did you decide to take on this challenge? Are you as crazy as Ben?
I think the term is ditto. No, yeah. Actually, I'm joining you from Treaty 6 territory, and I am as well very grateful to be here. We, from the ACCA side of things, are so excited about all of the work that we're doing with BCCA. And that was in large part thanks to Paul and his team dreaming up some of this stuff and bringing it all together. Well, I saw a pathway that ACCA was taking, and I was really just excited to be part of it. Strengthening and building the cooperative model is, I think, a really important aspect in Alberta and beyond, obviously. And I really just wanted to be a big part of that. I've got a bit of background in business and business development and municipal government. And in the last, 10, 15 years, got more involved in the co-op side of things and just saw the amazing things that could be done. And I thought with this organization joining with, working with BCCA, we had huge potential to do some great things. And I just wanted to be part of it, I guess. Crazy or not, I'm not sure, but happy to be here.
Excellent, Vicki. And maybe just for some folks who are new, we're getting some from BC, some from Alberta. Maybe just let us know which co-ops you have worked with and are with right now. So.
All right. I'm currently the CEO with Alberta Cooperative Energy, so a full service energy retailer that has a huge renewable component to it. I also am the general manager for North Parkland Power, which is a rural electrification association, so another co-op. And prior to that, I did some work with the Thorhild County Gas Co-op. So been a little bit involved in a few of those areas. And I come from great roots. My grandmother was a huge proponent of the cooperative movement in Saskatchewan. So she was always instilling those values in me. So yeah, it's been great.
Excellent. Yeah, it certainly does get in your blood, and Harvey knows this well, but in my office, back at the office, I've got the certificate number 19 for the share in the UFA co-op in St. Paul from my grandfather. So he was one of the early founders of that. I think we all have some of these linkages somewhere. And indeed, the history of co-ops is quite glorious in both provinces. And it's great to connect that and see it passing through the generations. Well, maybe back to you then, Vicki, or before we go on with that, I'm not sure, John, just a quick check. Are there any questions thus far? Probably not, but getting people used to line them up.
There is no questions thus far.
Okay. Whoever gets the first question in will receive a personalized soliloquy from Ben in your court of choice. So Vicki, in terms of one reason we're doing this together, of course, you yourself and Ben and I meet quite frequently to talk about various issues and how it's going, particularly around the collaboration. That's something new this year. It's been going on for a couple of years, but more formally with a management service agreement where the organizations are linking with staff, and it's going quite well on that. And from my perspective, but I think people are interested to hear from you as where you think it's going with this collaboration. How has it gone so far? And also, if you can make some comments on what you're looking forward to and what some of the challenges are too. There certainly are challenges, and I think people should know that, maybe help us solve them.
Excellent. That's a very big question, and it's an excellent question. From my perspective, this has been a fantastic move forward. I've always been a very big proponent of partnering. I've always thought together you can do more, and it doesn't stop with just our own businesses, our own initiatives. And by partnering with BCCA, we have found that we can be stronger together, that we have a lot of opportunity to grow and help each other. Big part of the co-op model is co-ops helping co-ops, and what better way to partnering two big cooperative membership organizations to even provide that much more benefit to its members. It's gone really well the last year and a half, almost 2 years. It's been even in the face of all this COVID challenge and whatnot, and being introduced from afar. So we haven't actually met in person, but just working so closely together on trying to achieve common goals has been a rewarding experience in my view. Right from the get-go, we had a cost reduction initiative by sharing some of our staff. So that was fantastic. We each saw an immediate benefit or realization from there. And not only is it a cost sharing of staff, but a cost sharing of knowledgeable staff. So you're able to afford to get people who actually know the business and know what they're doing and help move us forward at a very cost-effective approach. So I thought from my perspective, that worked really well. A great deal of the initial part is doing a lot of the, those norming, storming, forming kind of things. And I think we've made huge progress now to the point that we've actually come to a great juncture that has now had alignment by both boards that we can focus on some strategic outcomes, some 5 really key focus areas that we can deliver results on and show membership value at the end of the day. Challenge, yeah, there's always challenge, especially when you don't know the guys on the other side of the fence. So you're always worried that you might hurt some feelings or stomp on some toes. But you know what? I think that we've all been really approaching this with a very open, mature manner that is really keeping, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel in sight, saying, you know, that we can achieve great things. So let's not get in each other's way of doing that. Aside from that, the broader engagement, the knowledge sharing, the support we can give each other, I think that we have huge opportunity, and that's where I have seen a lot of growth and a lot of openness to support each other.
Oh, you're muted.
Someone should sing a song about being muted. I think that's appropriate at this point. I haven't heard one yet. I'm sure you have. Vicki, I guess in terms of what's happening in the next year, we've got some pretty ambitious plans. What are you most looking forward to in terms of the collaboration this coming year?
I've always been a fairly results-oriented person. So while I enjoy the forming and storming and norming, I really like to see the rubber on the road at the end of the day and seeing some results. And I know that our strategic outcomes have some very specific deliverables, you know, whether it's in finance or government relations, shared services, just working that much better together. And the government involvement in helping us achieve those in a positive manner. That's probably what I'm most excited about is just seeing those results that we can bring back to the members and say, wow, look at this.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Vicki. Over to you then, Ben, in terms of how the collaboration has gone, some of the challenges and what you're looking forward to in the coming year.
Thanks, Paul. Thankfully, Vicki's very easy to work with, and so are you. So that's been very helpful. You know, there are culture differences on either side of the Rockies, and I think we need to acknowledge those and understand that the membership of the two associations is quite a bit different. There's a good deal of diversity in the co-op sector in any jurisdiction. Then you reach across any two, and it just goes exponential. But I think by focusing on what the common cause is, that's where we've been most effective, and that's made the relationship easy. So, you know, I've been asking myself a lot through COVID, as I think a lot of people have, where the heck do you want to put your energy when you're working anyways? And so I want to direct it into initiatives that are going to make a real impact. And that's what we've been doing in this collaboration. We haven't been wasting time running around. We've been trying to focus on what the outcomes would be and trying to be realistic about, you know, boring things like revenue streams and just really how can we amplify the work. And so because we've all come to it with that objective in mind, it seems quite natural, and you can see the results already.
Excellent. In terms of what you're looking forward to specifically around the collaboration this coming year, any particular project, idea, or strategy that's has your attention?
Yeah, well, I've been really involved with the government relations piece for quite a few years now with the association, and what's exciting is not just the time and attention we're getting from senior leadership in British Columbia, but also in Alberta, and how we can maximize that effort. So if we're able to be consistent and clear with our messaging to elected officials, then we know that everybody on the sidewalk's going to get it too. So just helping to perfect our messaging and understand what it is that we're actually asking for. And as always in the co-op movement, we acknowledge that there's things we can do for ourselves and help ourselves. So it's not just a blatant ask. There's always something we're bringing to the table. And I think that, so just looking forward to doing more of that and more education of leadership in both jurisdictions and beyond about the potential for the sector.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Ben. And I think one thing for those who are new to ACCA, BCCA, one very clear reason why we started this in the first place even a couple of years ago is we had these strategic plans for both BCCA and ACCA together, done completely separately, put them side by side, and really the differences were grammatical. Quite honestly, it was so shocking how similar they were. And it was a pretty evident thing that there are two organizations with very similar missions. Why don't we try to put resources together and make that happen? So that almost a bit objective view that, hey, there's a lot of similarities here. There's certainly some differences across border in culture and economies. And so it'll be interesting to see how this continuing dating that's going on go to the next stage. We do have a few questions coming in, and I will give you guys a few right now before we proceed with what I have on the agenda. One from Michelle Calusi in terms of, you can see it here. Can you talk a bit about the nature of leadership and backbone or secretary supports that collaborative groups need? Who pays for that? How do your partnerships sustain their momentum and focus? There's actually a few questions there, Michelle. I'm going to put you on the spot and actually just have you come on, and if you can, take your video off and maybe ask that directly and have an interaction directly with Ben and Vicki.
Happy to, and I'm also happy to have you respond to any or all of those things that are resonating for you.
So I'll take a stab, because I think the nature of these questions is bang on. So why would a member of either association care about the collaboration between the two associations if we're not addressing these questions? And so first of all, it's that developer network and the expertise of folks that we have here on the call, actually some folks that are able to work with co-ops that in the early phases or really at any phase of their life cycle to figure out where to go next and to resolve some of those squishy and crusty issues that manifest in any co-op around governance, around member engagement, around all of those sorts of things. So I think both associations are committed to scaling that effort up. And so not only providing the soft supports and expertise around development, but also connecting, especially early stage co-ops, with the funding they need to be successful. We know that co-ops are the most resilient business model, and yet they're still really not well understood or known. And I think even within the co-op movement and many co-ops, that part of that work, that education and support and development and let's call it counseling capacity, needs to be able to see all of that, draw on that expertise, and draw on the willingness of others in the sector to share experience and what's been really key to success. So I know there's a shared commitment about that. It's written into our common plans in a variety of ways. And then who pays for it? I mean, I think that's another big reason why the two associations are coming together in the way that they are, to make sure that we're not competing, we're a cooperative movement, we should be cooperating to try to bring in as many revenue streams as possible, but to make sure that where possible, those are always focused with member organizations in mind, and supporting those and making sure that those pieces that resonate with them are well funded and supported. So I think we've gotten better at that just through this collaboration just in the last 6 months, especially with the fluidity of being able to refer issues from one expert to another and get folks in a room really seamlessly, despite all the hilarity of COVID. And yeah, so that's my stab at that. These are great questions though.
Michelle, if I could just add a little bit. Well, all of our co-ops are different in the types of businesses or services we provide. We are still co-ops, and those values are really strong through every one of us. And being part of an organization, whether it's BCCA or ACCA, trying to push some initiatives that help the cooperative movement overall can be quite costly, and especially if we each take on our own resources in order to support some of the initiatives that we want to. By coming together, we're able to share that cost and reduce the overall impact to all of us individually. But also, I mean, one of the key objectives that we're going to try and look at is when we learn from each other. I don't know about you, but when I attend like conferences or sessions, I get so much out of just talking to each person about how they handle different situations. And this is the same. I can talk to Ben about something and how did you guys go about doing that? And I get really key information outside the box type of thinking sometimes that challenges my thought process and actually only makes me stronger or better as a cooperative, that I can use that information and bring it in-house, irrespective of the type of service I provide. I mean, like I said, I was saying, one of our strategic objectives is actually to diversify revenue. So it's not dependent upon the members, looking and exploring those opportunities that we can get revenues from other streams to still provide extreme value to our members, but not on their backs. acquiring it or achieving it.
Excellent responses, folks. I'm sure you guys are picking up why it's such a joy to work with these two as we go forth. We'll go on to some questions to our respective chairs and take some other questions later on. I'll start again here with you, Vicki, on this one. You've heard me say this, one of the best things and the most powerful part of the cooperative model is its democratic decision-making and structure. One of the worst and most difficult things about the co-op model is the democratic decision-making and ownership structure. From your head and more thinking as your position on the board and having been on the board of many co-ops and been the executive, what are some of the key challenges around that we've had to work with in this last year and even coming forward as the chair of the board?
Right. And I think Ben has alluded to this as well. I mean, COVID, while it created opportunities for us to communicate differently, it also created challenges for us to get to know each other more quickly than you would. When you meet in person, you just get a better sense from people. When you're meeting on Zoom, it's hard to get that sense and that understanding and get all the information you want to talk about at once. Whereas, you know, at another event, you can actually sit down and have a chat one-on-one, understand the perspectives. So while the collaboration event has worked extremely well, we've had to overcome some of that hurdles of, you know, the trust and not that we didn't trust each other, but it's just part of that partnering, you know, development. Whereas you have to try and move above and beyond those challenges and those hurdles, and just use all the resources like that you can available to you. The staff have been amazing to work with. They really help keep us on track and targeted and focused, which is lovely. You know, but just those challenges associated with trying to get to know your neighbors and trying to move the initiatives ahead when it's sort of stilted, when you can't just sit in a room and hammer out a working group kind of stuff, that creates some of those challenges that I think Paul's identified as being a potential there. But through perseverance and the staff support, and, you know, with the two boards being very open and receptive to doing some great things, we've been successful to date, and I hope that definitely continues.
Excellent. Thanks, Vicki. Over to you, Ben. This crazy model, what's the challenges we've had with this? And I still wonder why you keep doing this sometimes.
As do I. You know, I'm not sure I have a lot to add to Vicki's comments. I think she hit them all bang on. I think there is sort of a shorthand that happens when you meet in person. And of course, we've been prevented from doing that. And so, and I think I see that especially between the boards of the two associations getting to know each other. So Vicki and I and Paul and staff and others are able to get together much more fluidly, but it's a lot harder to organize the time and so forth across so many other people. So, well, that's been a bit of a barrier. I don't feel like it's really holding us up that dramatically. And I just keep thinking, and this could be wrong, but in all dimensions of my work that, you know, surely we're not spending a lot of money on catering and so forth. And I'm really looking forward to the possibility of getting back together again. And I think folks are really going to value that interaction when it happens. And I hope we hold this and keep this time and remember, you know, how much we actually look forward to seeing each other instead of being annoyed by conference travel. Because there's something quite precious that's been missing. And so if we keep that perspective, we'll see how long that lasts. I think those first few meetings in any dimension of your work life are going to be really powerful.
Yeah, excellent on that, Ben. And you certainly feel that there is this pent up demand to meet, just as a human touch in general, but surely some of the oil that makes the cooperative machine run is that interpersonal relationship and trust, as you've talked about. And we've been noticing with the number of events we've had to cancel, there's such strong interest in people coming. And for those of you who don't know, certainly check out the website, Alberta and BC. We're having a conference in Kamloops. We had to shift the date because we wanted to ensure personal attendance to get some of this mojo going in terms of personal relationships. So you're of course welcome to attend that. And also, luckily, there's also Congress this year, Co-ops and Mutuals Canada Congress will be taking place in Calgary this year, and lots of opportunity, we hope by then, to interact over these issues, over where the co-op sector is going, and meet each other. And I'm interested to see how Ben and Vicki get along. On Zoom, it's been great. In person, they might actually go at it. We'll have to find out. Let's, in terms of the next question, I'll go to you, Ben, on this one to start off. Like many business associations, we sometimes get the question, what is the value I get from my membership? Why should I even join? How would you answer this to co-ops that approach us now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it doesn't matter what we come up with, we have to be able to walk it down the street in any town and with any member. And so what I've seen over the years is a real sharpening around this question. And so I know for BCCA, and I know it's the same for ACCA in our collaboration, it's about empowering the potential of the whole community. And I think of it as sector, so the whole sector. And that's measured in all kinds of different ways. So capacity and support for co-op development, tightening the relationship with government, open new opportunities for funding and access to funding, and regulatory improvements and enhancements, and new partnerships and communities of practice, and all of those sorts of things. And I think there tends to, it's a bit at odds with the co-op model, but I think some folks are attracted to co-ops and they think they'll be able to go it on their own within their co-op. So, okay, I'm already collaborating with this group of people and we're collectively going to achieve this amazing thing, and we're going to have members. And I think the reality is, like any business undertaking, you need friends, you need family, you need support, you need people who have been there before, who are doing the walk or a couple of years ahead of you, or are doing it at a different scale or in a different place. And so I think all of those things are actually pretty easy to quantify. And I suspect, and it's been really nice to see new membership applications trickle in, especially in the last year and a half or so. It's like pearls on a necklace or something. So there's a new one each month or each week or whatever the pace has been. And I've not seen anybody leaving the fold. So I'm taking this as a measure, folks are showing up, they're attending sessions, they're availing themselves of a variety of services, including the new services. And so it's a great way to see that some of what we're up to is having an impact. And of course, COVID, we could talk about COVID all day, and I think we're all exhausted and bored by it. So I don't want to do that too much, except that, it does add another dimension. And for those that are newer or even well-established co-ops, it's been a huge challenge, like to our risk profile, to our revenue streams, to supply chains, all of those sorts of things. And again, if we step out of our niche or our tree and see the forest, and that's the opportunity that the associations bring, and especially now in collaboration. And as you said, in June, the Co-ops Mutuals Canada event in Calgary, it's just a massive scale, and we do have something in common, and that's that border with the US. We all see those supply chain issues, and how are we collectively kind of organizing to overcome these challenges. So I think those are the things I'd look for as an individual member. I still do represent the BC Libraries Co-op at this table, and I know those are things that have meant a lot to that undertaking over the years and still do.
Excellent. Thanks, Ben. And Vicki, I'll go to you and maybe personalize it a bit more, because I've known you now for about 6-7 years. Remember, I think it was over lunch with you at a Vietnamese restaurant in Edmonton. That question came up. Why should I become a member of ACCA? And it was a very real question. I have that question myself. I know we as staff, particularly take a close look at that, are trying to increase the evidence of why. Corinne Rempel, our Director of Co-op Relations, has a big focus on that. She has some great listens to, if you ever want to hear from her in terms of why associations should matter to members. But from you, Vicki, just harkening back to that lunch we had and where we're at now, what is the value for someone joining the ACCA?
Yeah, I absolutely asked that of Paul. Being a member from 2 organizations of ACCA, I was like, well, tell me why would I want to buy this membership? Why would I want to stay in this membership? And you have to live it and feel it. And until you actually understand it and embrace it, it's hard to be able to get that. And I actually learned and grew since that time, Paul, might surprise you to know, because I was always very challenging on the business side of things. And I'm telling you, the co-op model comes with a significant amount of values and ethics that apply again across all aspects, municipalities have borders, memberships have borders, co-op members don't have borders. They have values, and those values are tried and true, and they are committed. And I've seen it time and time again where you might be a co-op member of UFA, but you're also a co-op member of the Calgary Co-op, and then you're a co-op member of, you're just a co-op, and you have that values that plays through in many aspects of your life, and you don't even realize it until you sit back one day and go, why do I have all those memberships? And then you realize it's about support and access and alignment with your values and the way that business is conducted. And those things are really, when it comes down to it, and that is the value of your membership. I had the good fortune of being able to go out as a co-op and provide support to 2 other co-ops. One was a gas and one was seed cleaning plant, and help walk them through a strategic planning initiative. And it was like co-ops help co-ops. We didn't go in there and charge a whole bunch of money to do it. It was more about, hey, this is good governance and this is what we do, and we help each other. So that's why I think that the membership value is there, and I hope that it rings true. So when I say about the shared services and helping each other, and when I say about access, I mean, one of the key drivers from this collaboration initiative and work that's being done is a shared services model that gives you access to that, makes you not feel like you're alone when you're trying to battle a situation, an initiative, or a government change, or whatever it is, that you have a membership that is there to back you and to help provide you the information that you need to be able to move your business forward or your co-op forward, and do it, very effectively. So yeah, that's basically where I come from.
That's excellent. I can actually see Corinne smiling. We might want to make sure that piece of the recording goes on to our next access profile as she leads that initiative. Great answers on that. I also see comments here on the Doane. It was not Doane's restaurant that we met at, and it has closed. I understand in part because of the transition to family. However, as some of you know, we've done some really good work in the past years, led by Seth Leon from our team around business succession planning. So maybe there's an opportunity to turn Doanes into a co-op owned by its customers and workers. So ideas come from every which way in every discussion on how we can make this happen. Excellent. I'll ask one more question. Go ahead, Vicki.
Well, if I could just add just one more thing. When we created Alberta Cooperative Energy, it was with Paul. Paul and I created this company. We put both of our retail companies together, and we could have chose any structure. We chose a co-op structure. And there was, and it was for a really good reason. One, there was a lack of cooperative energy providers in the province. And 2, it was the right model because it aligned with the values and ethics that we had as co-ops. And we wanted to provide an ethical energy retailing service, not just be a retailer that's all about the profits. So yeah, we totally lived and breathed this model when we were moving forward.
Excellent. And you're still here as well too. So in terms of the last question to each of you, and I'll start again here now with you, Vicki. At ACCA, BCCA, we have stopped something called the Cooperative Intelligence Unit, and the idea is to kind of a think and do tank and some forward thinking. So there's very interesting work happening around that, from the impacts of COVID and focusing coming up on the issue of data aggregation and cooperation, and how much of the data is out there is aggregated by large firms, and what does that mean for us as individuals. And the conference, part of the conference or the symposium that we're having in February is focusing on data and co-ops, particularly the ag sector, which Michelle Tsutsumi is helping lead and establish. So there's a link of that in the side. But with that, again, CIU, the idea is co-ops of the future. Where are co-ops going to be 10, 20 years from now? This last year has been one of the most tumultuous, quite honestly, for many of us, for our nation, probably since the Second World War. And lots of changes. So, there's COVID, there's tension, there's increased polarization, which I'm really concerned about, all kinds of issues out there. What do we as a co-op sector do, or how should we work, or what should we do to be a solution in some of these troubling times? So I'll go with you, Vicki, first, and then over to Ben.
Okay, and hopefully I'm not redundant in any aspect, but it has been challenging times, and for every business. and definitely for co-ops too. I mean, just trying to keep that engagement and the movement going forward on your business, staffing issues, all of those things. We really strongly, or I strongly feel that from ACCA side, that we can provide support and services that can help offset some of those challenges, help alleviate some of those challenges. You don't have to be alone on every front. That, you know, while there's, and who better to get it from than someone that already aligns with the same or similar values and ethics, right? We're co-ops help co-ops. So who better to get that information, that support from? You know, I think it's important that we stay on top of things, that we continue to grow and strengthen the cooperative movement, that we provide the tools to be resilient through all kinds of challenges, whether it's economic downturn or just, you know, the everyday business challenges on viability. I think we really just need to strengthen each other by accessing the resources that are available to us to do just that, provide an alternative to going out and just hiring or strengthening your own business, coming back to the group and saying, hey, this is what I need, and let us let other co-ops help you.
Excellent, Vicki. Over to you, Ben. All these big challenges facing us. What role should we be playing in that as an association, as a sector, as a cooperative movement?
Yeah, I think it's just such a huge opportunity. So once we get past being exhausted and generally depressed and sad, as we all are, because it's the most ridiculous time to be alive in some respects, you know, these are the conditions that co-ops are supposed to thrive in. And I think, you know, everyone's talking about when we get back to normal, but of course we know normal was no good, right? There were all kinds of things that were absolutely terrible just prior to COVID and continue to be. And so, you know, let's put some heart and soul into normal. Let's make the new normal powered by co-ops. I've been complaining a lot about how I don't want to hear anything more about what's his name, who makes the Teslas, that guy who gets all the attention, and his other billionaire buddies, and I've had enough. I think it's time to talk about community power and empowering folks and equity and reconciliation and all the things that are actually going to matter for our kids and grandkids and everyone that comes after. And so, you know, for 360 years or so in this province, in BC anyways, we've been mucking things up really good. And it's time to make some redress, put some action in, and move to that new future. So, you know, just that. I don't know if that's all achievable for two small but mighty associations in Western Canada, but I know there's a lot of people that are, you know, checked out of the way things were. They've taken this time to be reflective and thoughtful, and they want to be living a values-based life. And it's hard not to see that. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. There's just so much disparity. So co-ops make for a more cohesive world. We know that. So we should be doing more, as much as we possibly can, staying sane, pacing ourselves, and rewriting the whole narrative.
Excellent. Very good. So we'll start to go to some of the other questions, folks, and maybe just some quick transition comments around this in terms of what's happening next. On the BC side, I think one of the more interesting changes for me has been we're doing our government relations previously around leveling the playing field to make it easier for co-ops to access the services that most other businesses have, or at least be aware of what's going on. We've shifted that to a bit of a more ambitious plan to make BC the most co-op friendly jurisdiction in the world. And we want to do the same thing in Alberta, and we'll do that collaboratively with a little competition in between to see who can get there first. My sense is, as we're building things, it's going to be hopscotch. One will get advanced, and that'll translate to BC and other things. So ranging from securities regulation to support for renewable energy co-ops, the whole range of things. So lots of exciting stuff happening on that. There's been some comments here on the side too, in terms of what books have you read. I see Ben talk about Clearing the Plains, a book I've read as well. Certainly, I think there's a significant role that could be with co-ops and reconciliation. I think we're taking our time and pace and patience with that, given what's happened more recently, and I'm certainly open to that. Michelle Tsutsumi, who's on our call here, has done some great work around that we hope to bring across the board. Climate change is a significant one, and we've got Michelle Calusi who's here, and ACCA, BCCA is working with various groups with the Synergia Institute on some courses that helps people come together and look at co-op solutions. Are some of the most challenging issues. So a great experience around that you can consider. There's a link in the side here. We'll go back to one of the other questions here, and I'll ask this to you, Ben, trying to go back around. It's not about Vietnamese food.
Although that would be okay. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
happy to chat about that.
Oh, it is getting to supper time for some of us. So for Vicki and Ben, which other co-op principle, apart from co-ops helping co-ops, in the close work of your two associations, do your association most want to lean into in 2022? So other than co-ops, supporting co-ops, which is really our collaboration, what's the principle that you think we are kind of leaning to a bit more, or at least one of them this next year?
It's funny, so many of the principles overlap in some respects, but I've been thinking a lot about concern for community because of the challenges we've been seeing through COVID. So I think that's something through all of our initiatives and activities, can we see that connection between moving that one forward?
Excellent. Vicki, you're on mute.
I think that member economic benefit is always near and dear to my heart because it makes it's a cost benefit of your membership, of your community, of your business. I think that it all plays hand in hand, and I think it's all really important and underlies a lot of our values. So I think that one is important to me, that I would lean towards.
Thanks, Vicki. Another one, I'll go back to you, Vicki, on this one, is how can the collaboration between the two organizations, ACCA and BCA, increase engagement between members in both provinces?
Oh, that's a good question. I know that one of the strategic outcomes that we have as one of our 5 key focus areas is communication, and it's member engagement. And what I believe can happen, and I've seen happen in other jurisdictions, is that co-ops, it removes the barriers, and it doesn't mean that you have to have only the membership organization talking to each other, but you actually open it up and you have a communication mechanism, whether it's electronic or there's kind of an app you can use or an email system that you can use, but actually opening up and having as part of your communications plans an excerpt about each of the membership entities that are part of those memberships with their contact information, because I think that it's really important to learn from each other. And I think that it would be important to be able to share experiences or draw on experiences or get information from each other. And I don't want to be that barrier to that information saying, oh, you have to just go through ACCA. You can actually talk to each other. That's what it's about. I'm a huge proponent of talking to each other.
Excellent. Thanks, Vicki. Ben? I'll repeat the question. How can the collaboration between the two orgs increase engagement between members across the continental divide?
Yeah, I think, obviously through telekinesis would be the most straightforward thing. And I know you're working on that, Paul. So I look forward to that manifesting very soon. I really like communities of practice, and I know they thrive sometimes in co-op space, but it just really is come one, come all. And maybe think a little creatively about erasing the border between the geopolitical entities. I think a lot can come through that kind of co-created problem solving. So maybe as a next expression of all of this energy and trying to gather more folks creatively and wait till Omicron fades away and then hurry up and get in rooms and have great conversations, break a lot of bread, and go forward from there.
Excellent. I think some great opportunities with that. And I think, we're seeing the collaboration between our organizations. Hopefully you teach by doing. And I think in some ways we're kind of doing that a bit I'll just add one thing that I'm quite excited about. As some of you know, we've had Elvie Del Bianco join us at the BCCA, longtime lead of co-op, one of the best co-op leaders in the country, I think. And one thing we're both quite excited about is doing some work about helping co-ops in other provinces establish themselves in either BC or Alberta and vice versa. How do we help co-ops in BC or Alberta establish themselves across borders or other parts of Canada or other parts of the world? In fact, there's discussions with groups in the US about working very collaboratively around that. So that's something we hope to announce soon. So not only to set the table for common conversation, but take an active role in helping that happen. So looking forward to that working through. There was a question, I'll go back to you, Vicki, on this that came up and answered it in the chat, but I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. What are you reading that kind of informs a bit recently? It could be articles or books, or I'm not sure how much time. I know you're very busy, but what are you reading that you think influences some of your thinking about how the co-op movement is going or what we're doing?
A lot of my reading as of late, just researching on how co-op models developed from the early 1930s, essentially, and moving forward. So I just do a lot of research, articles, magazines, write-ups, researching specific co-ops, looking at how they grew. For instance, the REAs were developed by farmers coming together and putting in their own poles and wires, and just reading about how that, there was a woman that was hugely instrumental in putting the infrastructure in for gas. And, I just find that so intriguing that I'm not reading any specific book on it right now. It's more about research and looking at models and strategies and just that interaction. And a lot on renewable energy, by the way, by co-ops, solar cooperatives. So a lot on that. Being ACE, we're brought into a number of initiatives. I was just participating in one of a session on solar cooperatives on energy development. And further to that last question was they had breakout rooms where the different co-op people, and they weren't all energy people, could come together in a room and talk about how they could develop a co-op around a supporting co-op model to that solar co-op. So, I mean, they had different, it brought people together in a lot of different ways and touched on a lot of different parts. So I'm just always looking at strategies, essentially.
Excellent, Vicki. Some of those I'll leave it. Lots that we could discuss on just that comment. We'll move it down over to Ben. Ben, you mentioned about clearing the plains. Any other book you've read or source material that's kind of connected to our thinking and our strategy around co-ops?
I move slowly these days, so I read a book a quarter or something. But I'll just say to expand the definition of book a little bit. I had a great interaction yesterday, kind of a Q&A with a co-op developer whose name is, I think, Louis Cousin. From Quebec. Paul, you may know him. He's a PhD candidate. He's doing a bunch of work with the New School about co-ops, and he's particularly interested in digital platform co-ops. And so it's just these interactions to meet with really skilled and expert cooperators from wherever the heck they are. He found me by way of LinkedIn, I think, and we ended up having an 1.5-hour chat just about his areas of research and how exciting that can be. So if we talk about how do we connect members across different associations together, I think it's been that really missed opportunity to have community infrastructure supporting the means of communication, right? So all the other ones are in the hands of those billionaires, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn. Imagine a community-powered digital platform from which the co-op sector could really rise and sing. And so that's better than the next 3 books I might read. Some great ideas, and that's his area of research. And so I'm hoping he can show up at the next Co-op Intelligence Unit, and we can shamelessly make moves to keep him in the space and borrow that big brain of his and see what we come up with.
Excellent suggestions. I'm seeing Tara put some great books in here, and most of them which I've read. We could actually just turn this into a book club, and maybe perhaps we should do that. So John, we used to have co-op cafes. We should have a co-op book club. John's going to talk a little bit later about upcoming events, and we'll announce the bi-weekly co-op book club that will continue on. Some of these stuff is very good. I'd particularly recommend what you got there, Tara, from Nathan Schneider, who I think is one of the best thinkers in the world around the next stage of the co-op movement. Fantastic stuff. A question here, and it's a little bit longer, but I think we'll just do 2 more very quickly. We'll do this last one, actually. and they kind of link together. So I'm going to take an attempt to try and to link them together. You know, in terms of what we're doing with co-ops are collective impact, collectively working together, and thinking it now, the year ahead, this next year. And you may have to you may repeat stuff, but even I'll put it this way: how can ACCA and BCCA collectively best support members in the changing world in 2022 and beyond? I'll go to Ben on that one first.
Ben was waiting for Vicki. Ben will remember this. Thank you, Vicki. How can we best support our members in this changing world? Well, I think keeping our wits about us, staying sane, and knowing that again, we can create the new normal. And so, you know, it's a bit trite. I've heard it used before, but it seems totally relevant right now, which is, you know, we know which way is north, but we don't have the map. So we're on a bit of an adventure here. We've got our principles. We know we can lean on those, but I think we're really up against significant transformation in the sector, in the world, certainly in our jurisdictions. There's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of challenge to overcome. So I think the main thing is just to stay engaged with our members. I think that's what it's all about. Stay in touch, listen for those great ideas, listen where they're struggling, try to iterate and develop solutions. And not only will we survive, but we'll be better positioned.
Excellent, Ben. Over to you, Vicki, and you can't say ditto.
Yeah, definitely providing access to information, information sharing, always adding that value for sure. But helping people think outside the box, finding new creative solutions. Sometimes co-ops in the past have been criticized for being more old school thinking, and that's changed tremendously in the last decade or so, and it's going to change even more so, I think, in the future. I was doing some research down on the NRACA in the States, and the amount of impact co-ops have across the United States is amazing in every sector, and they're very creative. And I think that the government has started to see that movement in us as well. So through partnering, we've been very successful at acquiring some grants that it can actually help us move some of this thought process forward, and sharing that information and those findings, and not being, keeping everything so close to the vest that, people, if only we learn or hear about it, that doesn't help our membership. And so sharing all of those findings and all of that information with our members, because I think knowledge is power, and you can do anything if you have the right partnerships, the right knowledge, the right resources. And I think that just makes us a tremendous force to be reckoned with. Our resiliency in this area, co-ops have been resilient for, and I mean, the previous buzzword was always sustainable. Now it's resiliency. So I'm going to use that one. So I think that we have been incredibly resilient over many, many decades, or hundreds of years. And I think, or 100, probably more like 100. So, and I think we can be even more so for the next hundreds of years, because I think that we do work better together. One of the things with the BCCA and the ACCA collaboration event, I mean, I think it was Henry Ford that said something like coming together is a beginning, which I think was us in the last year and a half. And then keeping together is progress, which is, I think, where we're at. And then I think the last part of that phrase is something like working together is success. And I think that that's what we have. I think we will have tremendous success that we can then pass on and share, because we're not successful unless our members are successful. So I think that that's what we can do. We can open it up, give all the information, provide all the support. And I think that that's what our job is as an organization, is to provide that resource and that support to the members to make them successful, not us as an organization. We are as a result of them being successful.
I can't add anything else to that. It's a fantastic way to kind of close it out, Vicki. I'll thank you all for your time. I'm going to just hand things over now to John to make some final comments. really appreciate this. It is actually somewhat like this. We might invite everybody here. Ben and Vicki, we have our bi-weekly meeting together on Monday. All of you are welcome to come. Similar conversations will take place then. We'll share some more books and try to get some Vietnamese and hand it over back to John to finish things off.
Great. Well, thank you again, Vicki and Ben, for those very insightful, illuminating comments. I'm so glad that we recorded this because there's just so much content, and I was just enthralled with listening to you. So I'm looking forward to listening to you again and getting some more information. We will be sharing this audio link to all the folks here today, and also to the folks that registered and weren't able to make it. And I would encourage you, if you're in the Vancouver area or have a radio app, which you can get everywhere, to listen to Each for All on the 25th on Vancouver Co-op Radio from 8 to 9 to hear this wonderful discussion rebroadcast. So thank you to Vancouver Co-op Radio for that. So just in closing, I will invite you to the next speaker series number 2, which is happening in a month. So Wednesday, February 16th. And the topic is going to be cooperatives and data. It's going to be with the Co-op Intelligence Unit, the CIU, which is a think and do tank, as Paul mentioned. And the particular focus of this will be around data in the agriculture sector, which is particularly relevant at the present time, and also is a really good way to build some interest for the wonderful conference that we're going to be having in March in Kamloops, which was already mentioned, 24th and 25th of March. So with that, I'll again, thank you so much for coming, and send you off with blessings and happy trails as you go forward on this Thursday afternoon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Good job.